Welcome back, everybody. It is about 1 a.m. here, and I am getting tired, but I feel like I have enough energy for one more video. So let's crush through the rest of this chat view. In the last video, we went and we created the chats view and we added these bubbles. Let's put that on the screen real quick. In this video, we're going to build out the text field at the bottom. We're going to put some polish on the actual scroll view scroll, and then we'll add this confirmation dialog with the ellipses on the top right corner here. Let's go ahead and get started with the bottom section here. First, let's go ahead and extract this to a private variable. So we'll take our scroll view. I'll move down here and we'll say private var. I'll call this the scroll view section maybe of type some view. Paste it in. And now let's work with what we have where our rectangle is. All right, so very clearly we're going to have a text view. So let's start with a text field here. And we're going to need let's just do the first binding. At the top, we'll do an @state private var. We'll call this text field text of type string. Set it equal to a blank string to start. Let's make the placeholder say something ... and we will bind to the text field text. Let's give the keyboard type of .alphabet just to be explicit, and let's disable the autocorrection. So autocorrection disabled, and I'm going to get rid of the frame height of 50, and let's just add a background here. Let's go color from the UI color system, and we'll call secondary system background. This is like a secondary background color. It's like this kind of light gray here. I like using these system background colors and the secondary system background because they are automatically set up for dark mode. The gray is also a different gray in the dark mode, and it will just save us a ton of time later. Let's go ahead and add some formatting here at the bottom. So firstly, I want to add a white background to the actual text field. So before this background, we'll add another background. And to this one, I'm going to make a Z stack. And let's put a rounded rectangle on the screen. I'll give it a corner radius of 100 so it's totally circular. And just to separate out these two, let's add some padding in here. Cool, so we have the gray area and then this black rounded rectangle. This rounded rectangle I'm going to fill with a color, and let's go and use the UI color of the system background. So that's the actual white color that we were looking at before. And if you look closely at my preview here, there's a little gray line around, it looks like a border basically. So I'm going to mimic the border by actually making another rectangle here. Let's do a stroke here. A stroke is basically like a border. And so we'll do the one with the content and line width. Let's do color.red, line width of 1. We should be able to see it. There we go. It's basically like a border. There's a slight difference between a border and a stroke. It's basically how it lines up around the edge of the shape. But for our purposes, this should be fine. So what I'm going to do is actually add some padding. Let's fix all of our padding here. So this padding outside, so the gray area around it, let's change this to be horizontal of 12. And let's also give it padding vertical of 6. Better. I also want to make this white area bigger, so add some padding between the text and the white background. So before this background, let's give this padding of 12. Looks better. And now I can change this color.red to color.gray. We'll do opacity 0.3, 30%, and it just looks a little bit more natural. Cool. Let's put the send button on the right side. So I'm going to make this an overlay. Let's do it here, overlay. And we're going to add a button. So let's make an image with a system name. This will be the arrow.up.circle.fill. Cool. Let's align this to the trailing edge. And let's go ahead and make this a font with a system size of 32. I'm using a system size here, so the system sizes do not automatically resize with accessibility. So it will be always exactly this size no matter what the user has. I'm doing that because I want it to be exactly within this circle. I don't want this button to ever change size, ever. So let's go with system size of 32, and then let's add padding of trailing of 4, just to push it off the right side a little bit. And that looks good. Let's give it a foreground style of accent. And we'll make this any button with maybe the press. That looks good, but let's actually do the plain. I think plain's going to look better for this purpose. Yeah, that looks great. All right, let's fix one bug quick. So if I am typing here, I can see that the text field is going to go all the way through because this is an overlay. So I'm going to add some padding on the right side of this text field so that it can't actually go behind the button. So right up here, let's just add some padding of trailing, and let's do 60. So now if I type, it should kind of cut off eventually, and then that looks a little bit more natural. Here we go. Let's create a function so that we can actually do something when we click this button. At the bottom here, I'm going to create a private func, and I'm going to say on send message pressed. Let's open the brackets. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of logic in this function when we actually connect the AI. But for right now, let's just put some fake logic in here. So firstly, let's say that the message is going to be the text field text when we click it. And for right now, let's just try to append a new chat message. So chat message model, let's go chat let message equals chat message model, option enter, triple click, control M. And then let's just do a random UID string, and the chat ID is going to be the current chat. So let's do chat.id. So the chat from up here. Oh, we don't have a chat ID yet. Okay, that is a problem. Well, let's just put it as a random ID for now. The author ID is going to be my current user ID. So we'll do the current user dot ID, user ID. Let's make sure we have the current user. So we'll say guard let current user else return current user dot user ID. The content is going to be the message, and then seen by IDs will be nil, and then date created will be now. Let's say chat messages dot append the message. Let's call this the content. This will be the content. And then after we append it, let's make the text field text back equal to a blank string. So if I do this, it should now, let's go ahead and connect send message pressed to our button here. And so if I send it, it should now send. Awesome. Great. We're going to add some more validation to that text field in a second. But for right now, let's go ahead and cut the text field, move it down here. Make a private var. Let's call this the text field section of type some view. Paste it in. I'll put the text field section on the screen. We're going to come back to that in 1 second, but let's just do the rest of this screen quick. So we have this ellipses that we want to put in the top right corner. Let's go ahead and add a .toolbar here, and we're going to add a toolbar item. Look for the placement on the top bar trailing, and then we're going to put a button. Let's do an image, system name, and let's do the ellipses. Let's do padding of 8 so it just pops out a little bit, and then we'll make this a button. So we'll call it any button. Let's do the plain, which we actually can just delete this, and then we'll have an action. All right, let's go ahead and add a .confirmation dialog. I'm going to look for the one with the is presented binding as well as actions. So is presented and actions and a message. Title of this, let's just say, what would you like to do? And then let's make a binding for this. We'll say private var show, let's call this show chat settings of type bool equals false. Let's bind to it. For the actions, let's click enter. This, we're going to make our buttons. Let's do a button, and we'll look for the one with the role in the action. The first one's going to say report user/chat. We'll make it destructive, and then we'll have an action. And the message, I don't think that we need, so let's just leave that as blank for now. For a second, let's just say show chat settings equals true. Let's see if it works. Click this and report user chat pops up. We want one more button that says delete chat. So let's go ahead and copy this and paste another one here. This one says delete chat. And actually this maybe is the text that we didn't need, but the message we do need. So let's do the message here of what would you like to do? Does that work? Yeah. All right, that looks better. So what would you like to do? Report a user or delete a chat. Obviously we're not going to add the logic for that right now, but we at least got the confirmation dialog set up. We're actually going to fix some of this in the next video. We're going to write some really cool code to write some quick extensions to do this a little bit more conveniently going forward. I'll talk about it in the next video. But for right now, this is our business logic. I don't want it to just be in this function. So let's go ahead and cut this. Let's come down to the bottom and let's make a private func. I'm going to call this on chat settings pressed. And then we'll put this here. We're going to add more logic to this in the future, which right now it feels a little weird extracting it for just one line of code, but I promise you it will all make sense as we keep building out our architecture. This is looking pretty good. And the last thing we're going to do here is a little bit of a trick. Maybe it's a hack, maybe it's a tip, call it what you want to call it. But for the chat UI in a scroll view, you'll notice here in my preview that the content is starting at the bottom of the scroll view. The first chat message starts down here. It never really starts at the top. But the default of any scroll view is that it looks like this, where all your content starts at the top. So what we really want to do is get our scroll view to start at the bottom. Now the first way, the most obvious way that people go about this, and I've done this in the past, is put a bunch of spacing or like a blank cell at the top so that it pushes all your content down. But the problem with that is that you then need to figure out how much spacing to put in the first cell. So like for example, I could put maybe text with a frame and a height of 800 at the top, right? 800 is way too much, maybe 600 or 300, right? But now I have all this extra scroll area up here and it gets kind of weird. It's not perfectly smooth. I have to calculate how much space this is up here. So what if there was a way for us to get our scroll view to actually start at the bottom? Well, right now it's starting at this line up here, which is the top. So maybe I could flip the entire scroll view upside down and have it start at the bottom. All right, so let's go to the scroll view. Let's add a rotation effect. We're going to call it degrees, and then we'll add 180 to flip it upside down. Whoa, that looks kind of good. I mean, we have at least our content starting at the bottom now, right? But of course, when we type something, we know that it's going to pop in the wrong direction. All right, so maybe that's not exactly what we want. Let's comment that out. Maybe let's try, instead of flipping the whole scroll view, let's try flipping the content instead, the content in the scroll view. So let's go ahead and flip that around. All right, well that doesn't work exactly. All right, so let's comment that out. Maybe we should flip the scroll view upside down and then flip the content back right side up. And now we have this magic effect where we have inverted the scroll view to start at the bottom. Let's test it out, and look at that. Just like that, you have your typical scroll view starting at the bottom. All right, let's add a little bit of animation onto our scroll view. It looks decent, but you can see that the text kind of just jumps in when it pops in there. So let's add down here some animation. And I noticed that the default animation usually looks best when inserting things into the scroll view. Don't ask me why. Let's animate on change of the messages. So chat messages dot count. I think that should work. It's looking good. And I also want to be able to just customize where we actually scroll to in the scroll view. So the scroll view has a .scroll position modifier with the ID and anchor. So let's just bind to a scroll position. Top here, let's just do @state private var scroll position of type optional string. We'll delete the initial scroll position. Let's bind to it. Anchor it maybe to the center. Let's also add animation on change of the scroll position. And now I should be able to programmatically change where we scroll to in the chat. So maybe when we add a new message here, let's set the scroll to position equal to the message.id. I think I forgot to add the ID onto each of these cells. Let's put the message.id onto this. And then it should be working. Great. And that is going to be it for this video. And we got a couple more small things to do in the next video before we actually move on to something else. So stick with me. We're almost done with the UI layers of our application. We're getting really close to the end. Maybe we have 3 more videos, possibly. And then we're going to move into the data section of this course. Thank you guys for watching. Let's go ahead and wrap up with a Option Command C. Let's call this a feature. And let's say ChatScrollView. Let's stage it, let's commit it, and go ahead and push it up to GitHub. I will see you guys in the next video.